When a sitting president starts reposting messages that say hang them about members of Congress, that's a constitutional 5-alarm fire. Here's what just happened. 6 Democratic lawmakers, all with military or intelligence service backgrounds, released a video. They were speaking to active duty troops and intelligence officers, and their message was simple. You have a duty to refuse illegal orders. You swore an oath to the Constitution, not to a person. Donald Trump responded on Truth Social, and he called their message seditious behavior from traitors, and he wrote, seditious behavior, punishable by death. Then he reposted a supporter's comment that said, hang them. George Washington would. This should shock no one, but whoever wrote that comment has a warped view, at best, of George Washington. Washington helped put down the Whiskey Rebellion, an actual armed uprising over a federal tax, and 2 men from that rebellion, John Mitchell and Philip Vigil, were convicted of treason and sentenced to hang. And what happened next? Washington, George Washington, pardoned both of them. He didn't hang anyone, even in the aftermath of a real rebellion. But getting back to Trump, a sitting president who's already invoked emergency powers this year and is now amplifying rhetoric that calls for treating elected lawmakers as capital offenders for reminding troops to follow the law. Because here's the legal reality. Under U.S. law, sedition is serious, but it's not punishable by death. Treason can be, but that's not what this was. These lawmakers weren't plotting against the country. Their video reiterates that service members must uphold the Constitution and refuse unlawful orders, which is exactly what military law and their oath already require. And still, the response from Trump was to say it's punishable by death, and to boost a post that says flat out, hang them. You might wonder, is this just bluster? But in history, language like this is rarely harmless. In the 1850s, many political leaders branded abolitionists as traitors and joked about hanging them, and that rhetoric helped create a climate where violence broke out in Congress, and the country slid towards civil war. And in fragile democracies around the world, the pattern is familiar. Call your critics enemies of the state, accuse them of treason, hint they deserve death, and sooner or later, someone takes that seriously. This moment isn't about legal semantics. It's about whether we normalize the idea that dissent deserves execution. Because if traitor becomes the label for anyone who challenges power, if death becomes part of the punishment for saying that order is illegal, we're not in a debate anymore. We're edging towards something like a purge. What happens next depends on what we tolerate. Will elected officials speak up? Will military leaders defend the oath and the law? Will voters draw a line or look away, like after January 6th? The founders expected fierce disagreement. They even counted on it. But they built a system where dissent is answered with law and elections, not with presidents floating execution for their critics. So let me ask you, what do we do now that this is happening in our government?